Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name's Lana. I'm a mum of two. I've got two little ones under the age of 4 and I also live with my partner Matt and our dog Bear. I have made a bit of a New Year's resolution for myself this year. So if we want anything sweet in the house, like cakes or biscuits, then I am trying to make them all. I feel like obviously sweet treats aren't healthy, aren't good for you, but if you're making them yourself, you know what's gone into them and they are less processed. And I also really enjoy the baking. So I am going to be making some cinnamon rolls today. Matt has requested these this week, so I'm really excited to make them. I've got all my ingredients, so join me and let's see how they turn out. So I started out by measuring out 600 grams of strong white bread flour. I then added 75 grams of caster sugar and 2 sachets of yeast, which is 14 grams. I then stirred these round just to make sure everything was really nice and mixed. And then I measured out 90 grams of unsalted butter, and then I just cut these up into kind of manageable cubes because you have to kind of rub the dry ingredients into the butter to make a breadcrumb consistency, and it's just easier to use smaller amounts. So once you've done that, then I measured out 275 mils of milk, excuse the concentration face, and then you just need to warm that. So not piping hot, but just warm. I then put in a large egg and a teaspoon of vanilla. Then once the milk was warm, I then mixed that in to the dry ingredients with a spoon. It's really quite sticky at the start, so I started off with a spoon, and then once it was coming together a little bit, I kind of just got in there with my hands. I had washed my hands. As you can see, it was all over my hands at this point. And then once it was starting to thicken up a little bit, I just tipped it onto the kitchen side and started to knead it from there. I kneaded it for probably about 6 minutes or so. I just wanted to make sure that the dough was smooth and springy, as you can see in the video here. And then I needed to prove it, so I just wiped some oil round in a bowl and placed my dough inside, and then I just put it somewhere warm for just over an hour, or basically just until it doubled in size. I had to cover this in cling film as well. So whilst that was proving, I went on to make the filling. So I used 145 grams of soft light brown sugar, and then I mixed in about a tablespoon, 1 to 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. I just basically put in what I had left. Once this was mixed together, it created a really nice brown kind of sugary powder. I then dusted my worktop after my dough had doubled in size. I was really surprised with how big it actually was. It was huge. So I tipped it out of the bowl and then I got rolling. So basically you want to create a rectangle shape as best you can. Mine was super rough. Like, I don't think you need to be super neat, but if you can make a rectangle, then great. Once I'd got it to a shape that I was happy with, I melted 45 grams of unsalted butter, and then I tipped this over my rectangle. I can't really call it a rectangle, it really isn't, over my shape, and then I just spread that all over the top. If you had a brush, it would probably be easier to use a brush, but I didn't. So then I sprinkled on my filling. I just made sure that all of the dough was covered, and I smoothed it out with the back of my spoon. So then this next bit, it was a little bit tricky. So you basically just have to roll your cinnamon rolls up. I started at the bottom and I just wanted to make a big long sausage basically. Once I'd made a shape that I was happy with, I then had to cut it into my 12 rolls. So I cut it in the middle once, and then those 2 bits I cut in the middle again, and then the 4 bits I cut into 3, if that makes sense. So you'll then need to select a baking dish. I just used a really simple glass Pyrex dish. This works perfectly well, but you could use whatever you have. And then you need to organise your 12 rolls into 4 lines of 3 or 3 lines of 4, however you look at it. And then you'll want to cover that back over with some cling film and put it somewhere warm. So you want to do this again until it pretty much doubles in size and all of the rolls are touching. So after the second proof, you can put this on to bake. You'll need to set your oven at 160 fan for 20 to 25 minutes. Whilst these are baking, you can get on and make the icing. So you'll want to put in 300 grams of icing sugar, mix together some vanilla essence and some water. The aim is to make the icing really thick and gooey. Then it's time to get your cinnamon rolls out of the oven. Please ignore that little squashed one in the middle. That was literally just me poking a fork in and testing to see if they were done. So I waited for my rolls to cool down, and then I individually kind of cut and scooped them out of their Pyrex dish. I just arranged them on a plate so I could ice them all together nicely. The smell in the kitchen honestly is so good at this point as well. So once my rolls were all out nicely on the plate together, I got my icing and just drizzled over as much as I thought. So there you have it, guys. Delicious cinnamon rolls, homemade, and for a fraction of what you'd pay in a supermarket or a bakery. I worked out that these rolls cost just under £3 to make. For 12, I couldn't believe it. So I really hope that you love this recipe and you give it a go at home.